Students, today we are going to continue the chapter number 6 of NCERT class 6 titled as New Chapter and Ideas. In the previous part of this chapter we studied about Buddhism. In this chapter we are going to talk about Jainism. Jainism, the word Tirthankar means a spiritual teacher of Dharma, the righteous path, and 24th Tirthankar was Mahaviraji. His full name was Vardhaman Mahavira, and he was the 24th and the last Tirthankar of the Jains. He also spread the message around this time, which was again 2500 years ago. He was a Kshatriya prince of the Lichavani clan, which was again part of Vajji Sangha. The same way as we discussed about Gautam Buddha. At the age of 30, Mahavira left his home in search of knowledge, and after leaving his house after 12 years he attained enlightenment, and after that he started teaching to other people. Now the teachings of Mahavira was a very simple doctrine, and it said that if men and women whosoever wanted to learn and find the truth, he has to leave his house or home. So Mahavira strongly believed and advocated that all living beings long to live. That means they all want to live, and to all living things life is dear. So he strictly said that those who are joining him must follow the rules of ahimsa, that means not hurting or killing any living being. Now Mahavira and all his followers, they taught in the language of ordinary people, and the language was Prakrit. Now the Prakrit was not one single language. For different regions in the country there were different Prakrit. Like for example, the Magdi was the Prakrit which was spoken in the Magad. So there were different forms of Prakrit which were used in different parts of the country. Followers of Jainism, they were called as Jainas or Jains. They used to live a very simple life, very simple life, and they were begging for food. They had to be absolutely honest, and they were exceptionally told not to steal. They had to observe celibacy, and they had to give up, including men had to give up, including everything, including their clothes. Celibacy means that they will not marry over here. This means now Jains, the word Jains come from the word Jina, that means it means conquer. Conquer means the one who has win. And the Jainism was supported by traders, and farmers found it very difficult to follow. This is for the reason because farmers had to do the plowing in the fields, and because Jainism strictly advocated for ahimsa, so it was very difficult for farmers to follow this, because when they are plowing the field, when they are doing their farming activities, unknowingly also they will unknowingly also they might get to hurt some living being, which is strictly against the Jainism. So it was very difficult for farmers to follow Jainism, but yes, traders supported Jainism very strongly. Now the spread of Jainism over thousands of years, it spread to different parts of North India, especially in Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Post that in the south of India also it spread. Now initially the teachings of Jainism were transmitted orally for several centuries, but they were written down 1500 years ago. They were written in the form in which is presently available, like the original written form is presently available in Vallabhi in Gujarat. Both Lord Buddha, Gautam Buddha and Mahavira, they felt that those who will leave their house, they only could gain true knowledge. So they arranged a sangha for them. Sangha over here means where people who have left home, they are collectively living at one place. So it was in association of those, this was association of those people who had left their homes to gain true knowledge. So the rules made for Buddhist Sangha were written down in a book that was named as Vinay Pitaka. So those people who were living in Sangh, they had a rule book which was called Vinay Pitaka. Now there were separate branches for men and women. All men could join, but there were different permissions that one had to seek. If children were to join, if they wanted to join, they had to take permission of their parents. If they are joining Sangha, these are the rules for different people if they want to join Sangha. So children will take permission of their parents, slaves will take permission of their masters, employees will take permission from the king, debtors, if you have taken some loan from somebody, then you will take permission from the owner from whom you have taken your loan. Women will take permission from their husband, but otherwise everybody was permitted to join the Sangh. So the men and women, those who joined the Sangh, they were living a very simple life. They would meditate for most of the hours of the day. They went from place to place, from cities and to villages, begging for food during fixed hours. So the people who lived in Sanghas, they had rules to follow. Now that is why they were known as bhikshu, or the Prakrit word for bhikshu is bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Now they taught others, the people in the Sangh, those who were part of Sangh, they used to help each other, they used to teach others, and they used to settle the quarrels if they erupt in the Sangh. They will meet with each other, collectively decisions were taken over here. Now, with time, need for more permanent shelters were realized. So, monasteries or vihara, meaning the same, they were built. Now, how were they built? Initially, they were made of wood. Later, they were built in bricks. Some were in caves that were dug out in the hills. Again, so there were different ways of making monasteries or viharas. Now the land, where will the land come now? So the land to build monasteries either were donated by rich merchants or the landowners or the kings. Now both the Jain and Buddhist monks, they traveled throughout the year teaching different people. The only time they stayed was during the rainy season, because it becomes difficult to travel when it rains. So they lived during this time, during the rainy period, they lived in temporary shelters like gardens or in natural caves if they were traveling in the hilly areas. So in present day Maharashtra, there is a cave, Karle. So this is a site where monks and nuns lived and meditated. Now local people, when the people used to the monks used to live in monasteries, so these local people will bring gifts for the monks who used to live in these monasteries, and in return the people of the Sangh, the monks or the nuns, they would teach the people. Over the years, Buddhism spread to many parts of the subcontinent and beyond the subcontinent. Now, a very famous Buddhist text tells us that when the waters of the river, they join the ocean, they lose their individual identity. Similarly, when a person joins the Sangh, the concept of varnas, ranks, or family is forgotten, is no longer there, that gets vanished when they are becoming the followers of Buddha in order to join the Sangh, or when they are becoming the monks. Now we will talk about the system of ashram. This concept was developed around the same time when Jainism and Buddhism was spreading. Ashram here, it does not mean a place to live. Ashram over here means a stage of life. Now there are 4 ashrams that we are going to talk about. The first one is Brahmacharya, then Grihastha, then Vanprastha, then Sannyas. Now what does Brahmacharya means? It actually means the student life, where Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, they were expected to live very simple life, study different Vedas and gain knowledge out of it during their early years of their lives as a student. Grihastha means that the men and the women are entering the household, they are getting married, they are going to have a family. Now in Vanprastha, the men and women will live in the forest and they will meditate over here. And finally in sannyas, the men would give up everything and become a sannyasi. Now the women, what was the role of women when it comes to the concept of ashram? Generally, women were not allowed to study the Vedas, and they will be following the ashram which her husband was into. So if the husband is into grahas, she would eventually follow the footstep of her husband. So this was a setup there that time. Now, when these things were happening in our country, so uh, we'll study, we'll learn what was happening in other parts of the world. So it is very interesting to learn these things like this. So Zoroaster was an Iranian prophet. His teachings, whatever he taught, is it has a collection in the book called Avestha. Now, this is very similar to what was taught over here in India. So the practices are the practices which were given in this book by Zoroaster are very similar to what has been described in our Vedas. So the basic teachings of Zoroaster contains, and it says that good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, which we have studied in our part also. Now, for thousands of years, this Zoroastrianism, this remained a very major religion in Iran. But later on, the people from from this place, from Iran, the Zoroastrians, they migrated from here and they settled down in India. Where in India? In coastal towns of Gujarat and Maharashtra. Now, these people only today in India we know them as Parsis. So they are the same people who migrated from Iran and settled in Gujarat and Maharashtra, and today we know them as Parsis. Thanks for watching. Please watch the video again and do like and subscribe if you like it. Thank you.